Hey everyone, I'm Aria and welcome back to my channel. So today I am building with the new industrial loft kit that was released last week. As a lot of you may know, this style isn't something that I typically build in. I've done it a couple times, like an industrial style a couple of times, particularly when the platform update came out. I didn't make a video on it, but I do have a loft on the gallery somewhere. But yeah, it's not really a style that I particularly enjoy building in, and I do prefer more like fantasy style builds, so I thought it was a good opportunity to try and put a little bit of a twist on the industrial style. So I am building a kind of fantasy inspired steampunk diesel punk kind of airship. It was a lot of fun actually. I fully intended on this being out on Monday, but it kind of took on a life of its own and ended up a lot bigger than I originally planned, so that is why it's taking up the space of 2 videos this week. So I hope that's okay. I am building in Evergreen Harbour on the 40 by 30 lot called the Waterfront. This is normally a community space lot, I think, but it's the biggest lot in this world, so I wanted to build in this world because I'm not sure. I think I maybe have built here like in this world once, but I wanted to build it here because it seemed the most appropriate for the industrial style. And I know a lot of people are having glitches with Evergreen Harbour right now. I fortunately am not, so I thought I would take the opportunity. So this is a 2-bedroom boat, boat ship. I kind of had the idea that maybe it was an old airship that's not really in use anymore, obviously, since it's not going to be functional. But it is functional as like a house, so I thought it could probably be like maybe a decommissioned airship that somebody has bought and turned into their home. So there's a couple of features that I have included that I think would probably be from like the original build, and then I have turned like the rest of it into a functional house, which I think is really cool. So I have used every single item from the new kit, several items from the Journey to Batu kit, because the swatches and things just go really well. It's got that like nice grungy kind of rusty look to it. I also used these tractor wheels from the cottage living pack because I really love the color that it comes in. They do rotate pretty nicely too, but I haven't rotated them in this. And I've used quite a lot of Get to Work for the pipes and things, and then the doors I think are from Strangerville. I think they're meant to be like trailer doors, but I just liked the look of them. I've also used these windows from Get to Work. The cottage living ones I put down I eventually don't use. I wanted like a porthole sort of window, and the only ones that we have to me were a little bit too big for this build, so I thought the cottage living ones would work pretty well, but in the end I changed the layout slightly and there's just not really room for those types of windows. I planned for them to be like bathroom windows, but I end up changing it so the bathroom's like, I don't think the bathroom actually has a window in the end. Because I add 2 kind of, they're like cells, like prison cells. I was having a look at some different inspiration pictures on Pinterest, and this is kind of an amalgamation of about 10 different images that I found, which I really liked. So I can't give you an image because there's like 10, but if you want to see them, then they are on my Pinterest, which is linked in the description below. I've gone with a kind of red and green theme with this build. There's quite a lot of orange on the exterior. Like I said, I wanted to incorporate some of those sort of rusty swatches that we have across the different packs, but on the interior, especially with the like the furniture items from the new kit, there's quite a lot of reds and greens, which I really like. So I've gone with that for kind of more of the furnishings, I suppose, which I think is really nice. I think they're, I don't know why, to me red and green is more of like a Christmas color, but they definitely have more of like an industrial furnishing color too, which I think is really cool. I really struggled with the shape of the deck of this boat piece on the front here. I end up deleting this and it changes back to the original shape a little bit later on, because I really didn't want it to stick out the side of like the boat that I've used underneath. But when I go to try and round off those edges, the shape that I have here just doesn't work, so I end up just changing it a little bit. This is a piece from Get Famous. I think it's from like the pirate ship set. I also use the sails from that set because I think they look really nice. I was going to use the balloons that we got with Island Living as more of like a oh gosh, I've forgotten the name of it now. Those like big air balloon ships. Yeah, the name has just gone. I'll remember it probably in like 5 minutes. But I was going to use those because they do have a darker swatch. I think it's meant to be a shark, that if you overlay them facing in the opposite direction, they do cover up the little face, but I just couldn't get the shape to work right, so I end up making like my own sails out, curtains and things, which wasn't my intended plan, but I think they look pretty cool. So I've used these pipes here to act as sort of like columns, I guess, like support columns. They overlay really nicely with these columns from Get to Work, so they just add like a little extra detail. I have added so much detail to the exterior of these buildings, or these floors. I've used like all the pipes that we have. There was a couple that I found on the gallery from Arnie's World Edit mod that I didn't end up using, but I do think they look really nice. So what you are seeing here is my kind of first go at furnishing this. I end up making it a lot bigger. So the like interior and the furnishings that you will see in the tour at the end, they are very similar to this. The layout is exactly the same, like the furnishing swatches and everything are exactly the same, it's just bigger. I kind of felt like it was a little bit too squishy for the size of this build and like the size of the lot that it was on. I didn't think that it was quite big enough, so I did make it a lot bigger. The bedrooms and everything that I have, there is the double bedroom, which at the moment I think the bed is against the wall, but you can get to both sides in the end. And there's like the double beds that I've used, the bunk bed, sorry, and then the two cells have like a single bed in. Here I was desperately trying to line these grates up with the vents, and it was just, in the end I gave up because it was just too difficult. It was so much work just trying to get these things to line up that I thought nobody else is really going to notice, and if it looks good enough on the outside, then it is good enough, because otherwise I'm just going to spend another week trying to line up vents with grates that nobody cares about. So I end up just moving them just so that they kind of look like they fit and leaving it at that. So I've used a couple of different packs in the furnishings. Mostly I have tried to stick with like these base game cabinets and then the industrial loft kit. I don't end up including this oven. Maybe I do, I don't actually remember. But the fridge is from Cottage Living, and then this brick wall that I absolutely love is from City Living. It's like my favorite brick wall. So I really like having like a more cartoony kind of look to my game. I really like the Maxis Match kind of style. To be honest, if anything, it's more Maxis Match than actual Maxis Match, if that makes sense. Like, I really like the cartoony look, and if any of you have seen my Sims, they definitely have more of a cartoony look to them. Over exaggerated features, that sort of thing. So I've put this game table, as you saw a second ago, the game table from Journey to Batuu in that lounge area. I end up changing it to the base game like cards table. I did really like the swatches of this Journey to Batuu one, but it just, I don't know, it didn't really match how I wanted it to. In the end, my furnishings on the inside look a little bit more like modern and put together compared to the outside, which just looks like a rust bucket. And I didn't really want the inside to look like a rust bucket too, if that makes sense. I wanted it to look like they'd renovated it, so I end up changing it. Up here ends up a lot bigger too. I wanted it to have kind of like the original features, maybe original features of the ship, where it would be I keep forgetting words today. Like where they drive the ship, what's that called? I don't know. But I end up changing it into like a robotics lab, which I think is really cool. I've not actually used the station from Discovery University before. I do really want to though, because it looks really fun. I've seen a couple people play it, and I think it looks like a really, you know, that I mean, my Sims have gone to university, but I haven't played with the robotics, so I think that would be really cool to play. But yeah, I have changed the upstairs into sort of like a study area. It's a robotics lab, but I think I've also put the fizzing station up there too. I wanted there to be some kind of, you know, skill building something in this. I've tried to include skill building in pretty much all of my builds lately, just so that, you know, your Sims have something to do if you do choose to download and play in my builds, because otherwise they just kind of don't make any sense, and then you have to leave a lot and loading screens and yeah. So here I have put at the front of the ship, I end up putting I think it's a crane from probably Eco Lifestyle. It's blue, I think, and I've sized it down to like the smallest it will go without using tool mod, and I think it's pretty good in terms of size. I really wanted to use these panels, but to me they just kind of don't make sense. Like they look like they should be a child's toy, and the fact that the pipes kind of don't lead to anywhere. If you've got them the like right way up before I rotated them, if you put them on a two tile wide wall, then they make sense because the pipes lead straight into the wall, and that's fine. But where I've used them here, I needed to make them make sense, so I have put quite a lot of pipes and everything out of where they disappear into nowhere to make them look like they actually go into the ship. But yeah, I know they're meant to be like a decorative feature, but to me they don't really make that much sense. Like if you are building an industrial styled loft or home, whichever, generally they're quite open plan, very spacious, don't really have much in terms of like internal walls and things, so you wouldn't necessarily have a 2 tile wide room in an industrial loft unless it was in like a utility room or a cupboard. And then you know, what's the point? So I really wanted to use them. Like I said, I have used every item in this new kit bar 2, which is the 2 different wall height lights. This one I end up using the medium wall height, so I've used the medium wall height hanging light, but the short and the tall one I don't use because obviously wall height there wasn't any space for it, but all of the other items I've used. But yeah, I wanted to use them, but in terms of putting them like on the inside renovated part, they didn't really fit with this build for me at all, which is where I kind of came up with the more fantasy kind of style, because, you know, if you've seen my builds before, then you know that I like adding fantasy style, story style, anything to all of my builds, so it made sense that this was a more fantasy inspired build. So I wanted it to make sense, but at the same time, you know, I wanted it to be fun too, so I've used these pipes from Get to Work. They don't match the swatches exactly, but they match close enough that I thought, you know, from far away it's fine. So I've just tried to cap some of them off with these, tried to put the pipes into the ship to make it look like they kind of lead to somewhere. And I have put these on both sides of the ship. I only show you one side because it didn't make sense to show you both sides when I do exactly the same on the other side, but I still think they look really cool, and they definitely add to that like steampunk kind of diesel punk look, which I think is really cool. I don't think I've ever done anything like steampunk before. I've done like a junk city which was different. It was more kind of neon signs and electricity and things. I have included electricity in this. It's not off the grid or anything, so there's a TV, and I've used like lights, like electrical lights and things. Like I said, I wanted it to look a little bit more renovated than yeah, entirely steampunk. But you know, in terms of playing the game, there's only so much you can do to make it look fantasy, but it also be realistic and playable at the same time. So there's a couple things that you just kind of have to take liberties with. So that's kind of why I came up with the renovated idea. I end up changing the bar that you can kind of see in the middle to the one from Strangerville. I liked the fact that it had corrugated like siding on it and all the different road signs and things. I think they just kind of worked really well. I did originally use the one that you can kind of see is from the base game to match the counters, but it just kind of looked a bit out of place once I had finished the rest of the exterior. Basically all I do with that is add a whole bunch of pipes everywhere. I don't include it in the video because what you are seeing me do now is literally all I do, but on the outside of the building as well. So otherwise you'd be sat here for half an hour watching me place pipes, which nobody wants to do. So this, well, when we get there in like 30 seconds, is what the exterior of the build looks like, and I think it looks really cool. Honestly, I think it looks pretty cool. So we start on the masts and things. I struggled with this because to me it looks really kind of back top heavy, and I wanted it to look a little bit more balanced. Obviously it's not meant to look like it's functional at all because otherwise it would just tip straight on its back, but you know, I wanted it to look a little bit kind of like it would at least stand up. You can kind of see I've added like a little dock kind of thing platform around the back end of this build so that your Sims can actually get up into the boat ship. And yeah, like I said, it is fully functional, which I think is really cool. So these items that you can see in my household inventory at the moment, I pulled out like a whole bunch of different things that I wanted to use. This broomstick from Realm of Magic was one of them, but when I rotated it with the tool mod, because it's meant to be like a wall hanging item, the footprint was like right in the middle of the broom, so I couldn't get it any further off of the ship, otherwise it would have been placed off the lot. So I end up going with a Journey to Batuu light, which I think is really cool. It lights up red at night, which I've tried to include quite a lot of lights and things on this. So in the tour at the end you will see I've tried to transition so that you can see kind of what it looks like in the day to what it looks like at night, which I think is really cool. This here I had in mind as like a giant chimney. I tried to use these bookcases from Journey to Batuu. I do end up using them as like a decorative feature, but yeah, I wanted it to look like this giant chimney. I guess I raised up a whole bunch of rocks right now, which I thought would look kind of like coal. I don't know, I think they look really cool. These ones just didn't work for me. they had too much space in between the rocks, so I end up using some different rocks from Island Living, which I think look a little bit more like coal. And yeah, I end up placing a whole bunch of chimneys in here just to create like the giant smoky look to it. So when I started building in Evergreen Harbour, it was already the world was already like industrial themed, so it's quite smoggy and not very nice. But by the time I finished playing it and went to play test it, it had cleared up to neutral, so there's no more of that like nasty fogginess in the tour, which I think is really cool. So as you can see, I've placed a whole bunch of chimneys in this thing, and then I use the tool mod to lower them all down into like this barrel thing, and then when your sim goes to light one of the fireplaces inside, then all of these like chimneys produce loads of smoke, and it's a lot. But I think it looks really cool. I've added these pipes here from Eco Lifestyle. I've added these quite in a lot of places too, and I rotate some more chimneys and put them in these, I don't know what they are, these pipe pieces, to make it look like the smoke is coming out the back too. I really wanted to, I don't know, maybe not use the tool mod and cheat a little bit, I don't know. And try and get these vents lined up without using the tool mod, because when I was trying to do some of the pipes you saw earlier, when I was trying to alt drag them in places, they would just like jump halfway down the build, where this is quite high off the ground, so it just was making my life probably more difficult because they wouldn't go where I wanted them to. But these kept on trying to snap to the wall underneath, so I had to. But yeah, I rotate some of these chimneys and then I size them down, I think to like 0.04, so they're still big enough for you to click on, but they're pretty much invisible the rest of the time. So if you wanted to delete them or move them, then if you zoom in, you should be able to see them, which usually I would size them down to like 0.01 so that they are completely invisible. But then, you know, there's the issue of if you want to move them or delete them, you can't find them because they're invisible. So I wanted to try and keep them, you know, big enough that you can still click on them, but tiny so you can't really see them. So yeah, I think this looks really cool in the end. I'm really pleased with it. I wanted to add a little bit of decoration to the top of these masts. These roof pieces from the Vampires pack worked really well. I end up changing this red roof to the blue swatch, I think, in the end. I didn't really know what colour to go with. I think I started off with the grey one, then switched to orange because to me it looked rusty, and then I end up changing to the blue one because I wanted it to tie in a little bit more with the crane that I'd used. And to be honest, there was just a little bit overpowering on the orange in the end. I've used the yellow fence on these balcony pieces because I wanted to break up the orange a little bit. I don't think I've really used that much yellow in it, to be honest, other than like the walkway. But I probably, if I had used the blue one, it wouldn't have really stood out, and I wanted it to, you know, stand out a little bit. So these curtains are from Island Living, and then I've also used some from, I think it's the Vintage Glamour pack. I think that's obviously the only thing that I've used from the Vintage Glamour pack because nothing else goes in this build. So if you don't have that pack, then, you know, the two curtains that I put in will be missing, and that's it. Just these curtains, sorry. I just wanted, you know, that extra a little detail, and these ones just kind of pulled in at the right places. I really wish that we had like proper ship curtains. Just ship curtains, sails. Like these masts are really cool, but they don't come with sails. I think it just would have been a nice feature to have some, you know. But I think they turned out pretty cool in the end. It didn't quite have the look that I wanted, but I did really like it. I add these animated fans from the Journey to Batu pack, which I think look really cool. They kind of just add, like I said, another extra little detail. And then I rotate these pipes just to make it look like they're connected and to make it make sense. But that is almost it for this build, so I really hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. What did you do with the new kit? Do you even have it? Honestly, I wasn't really gonna buy it, but when I found the the images that I had saved on Pinterest, I was like, okay, this is kind of the pack that I'd been waiting for, so I thought it was a good reason. And honestly, it's actually a pretty nice pack. Some of the things in it are really nice. We just won't talk about the window. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the tour at the end. This build is on the gallery and the tray files can be found on Tumblr as usual. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think and I will speak to you all next time. Bye everyone.
Forgive me, gotta tell you what I did is kinda evil. Could've made a deal with him, but honestly don't need to. Tell me, devil, would you give your soul for free? Well then come on, devil, won't you sell your soul to me? Look at this moment in place, I'm doing it for the reactions. Someone who will laugh in your face, someone who'll be paying the taxes, yeah. I gotta get back in the pace, I gotta wait for the relaxing, yeah. Why you be napping, yeah, pick up my napkin, yeah. Look at this moment in place, see that I'm open to taste. You couldn't go but a fake, loving the words that he says. See when I'm up in your place, too many up in your place, too many faces, too many places, yeah. Please, oh God, forgive me, gotta tell you what I did is kinda evil. Could've made a deal with you, but honestly don't need to. Tell me, devil, would you give your soul for free? Well then come on, devil, won't you sell your soul to me? Playtime's now over, these demons on my shoulder. I've been sitting all day long, it's tough when you don't take off. Make this in the daylight, I want some, so play right. I'm dressed well with that halo, these angels, they don't know. Look at this moment in place, see that I'm open to taste. You couldn't go but a fake, loving the words that he says. See when I'm up in your place, too many up in your place, too many faces, too many places, yeah. Please, oh God, forgive me, gotta tell you what I did is kinda evil. Could've made a deal with you, but honestly don't need to. Tell me, devil, would you give your soul for free? Well then come on, devil, won't you sell your soul to me?